We will start with the gram-negative bacteria today because many times the gram-negative bacteria are more than that of the gram-positive bacteria. Hence, it is always better to study about the gram-negative bacteria. The cell wall of the gram-negative bacteria is much more complex. Of course, yesterday we have learned about the cell wall, which is more thicker, especially in case of the gram-positive bacteria, whereas it is also present in the gram-negative bacteria. It is present in the gram-negative bacteria, but the thickness is little small. That's why there is a difference between the gram-negative bacteria, and the gram-negative bacteria will have a cell membrane. So because of this particular thing, there is a lot of difference between the gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria. So unlike the gram-positive bacteria, the cell wall in the gram-negative bacteria is composed of an membrane, outer membrane, and a periplasmic place as containing a small amount of the peptidoglycan. So it's also containing the peptidoglycan, but it is having very small quantity. The teichoic acid found in the cell wall of the gram-positive bacteria is absent here. So note down the teichoic acid, which is present in the gram-positive bacteria, is absent here. So we will see the structure. The outer membrane is a asymmetrical lipid bilayer containing the proteins. Its inner surface resembles that of the cytoplasmic membrane, whereas that of the outer surface is composed of the lipopolysaccharide molecules. Yesterday, we have seen the difference. Of course, if you want to go to yesterday, then the cell wall, the structure, especially here, there is a structure, especially there is a difference in the gram-positive and negative bacteria. So please go once again about the structure, similarity and difference between the gram-positive bacteria and the gram-negative bacteria. So here, the outer coat is containing the peptidoglycan. It's also there, but it is very thin here. Whereas the outer membrane, especially the cell membrane, is consisting of the lipopolysaccharides, which is containing the porine molecules. And the inner, there is a small membrane, and especially the what you call as the porine channels are the one through which the varieties of the nutrients are supplied to the gram-negative bacteria. So the same, that's this peptidoglycan is present, and periplasmic space is present in case of the both, whereas it's little more. Whereas the plasma membrane is also present in case of gram-negative bacteria, but the thing is, the only difference is this one, the outer membrane, that is the lipopolysaccharide protein. This is absent in the this present in case of the gram-negative bacteria. So this is the main difference. So outer membrane, it's a asymmetrical bilayer containing the proteins, and the inner surface resembles that of the cytoplasmic membrane, whereas that of the outer surface is composed of the lipopolysaccharide chain. Whereas the outer membrane lipopolysaccharide is composed of the core polysaccharides bound to a lipidae and the long external polysaccharide, that the side chains. Whereas the polysaccharide side chains contribute to the complex antigenic specificity of the gram-negative bacterial cells and are usually called as O polysaccharides. And because they correspond to the somatic O antigens, that's why they are called as the O polysaccharides, and these are used for the serotyping of the gram-negative bacteria. So because varieties of the serotypes are present in the same type of the bacteria, hence these are used. So once again, we will see the structure and the difference between the gram-positive cell wall and also the gram-negative cell wall. So this is the teichoic acid, which is present especially in case of the gram-positive cell wall. So the teichoic acid and the peptidoglycans. So all these is a structure of the peptide glycan, whereas the both of these chains are lipoteichoic acids, especially in the cell wall of the bacterial cell. Whereas the periplasmic space is also there, but it is devoid of the Brown's lipoprotein. Here, one special structure is there that's called as the Brown's lipoprotein. This peptidoglycan layer is very thin in case of the gram-negative bacterial cell wall, whereas the peptidoglycan chain is very thick in case of the gram-positive cell wall. And the periplasmic place is containing the varieties of the cellular organelles like the peptidoglycan, and the plasma membrane and integral proteins are also similar to that of the gram-positive bacteria. Of course, varieties of the flagellae are also present here, the pili and the O-specific side chains. So these are called as the O-specific side chains. So they correspond to the somatic antigens used for serotyping. This is serotyping. These are used as the serotyping the different bacteria, which are all the which a type of this bacteria is, and the varieties are being tested. So then, so this structure is unique in its nature. The other component of the lipopolysaccharide is lipid A, which is responsible for the endotoxic activity. Lipid A is present. Anyway, we will see the outer lipid membrane, which is there. It is especially it secretes the endotoxic activity of the gram-negative bacteria. Of course, among the gram-positive bacteria also, some of the bacteria will secrete endotoxins like the Staphylococcus aureus. So the outer membrane is also contains the specialized protein channels called as the porins. So we have seen in that particular structure through which low molecular weight substances such as the sugars and amino acids enter the cell. So on account of its composition, the outer membrane excludes the hydrophobic molecules. So hydrophobic or lipophilic molecules they exclude. So it provides the adverse effects and toxicity to the host, but protects the bacterial cells from the phagocytosis of the host. So varieties of the phagocytic cells are present in the host. So the bacteria will be protected by, especially the gram-negative bacteria will be protected by the phagocytic cell because of the outer cell membrane. So the outer cell membrane also renders gram-negative bacteria resistant to some detergents which are lethal to most gram-positive bacteria. That's why many times the outer membrane, which is present in case of the gram-negative bacteria, which is absent in case of the gram-positive bacteria, will protect the bacteria from the soaps and detergents. That's why they are more resistant to the lytic action of the soaps and detergents. Then there is a space called as the periplasmic space. So this periplasmic space of the gram-negative bacterial cell wall consists of some lipoprotein molecules, some enzymes, and 1 to 2 peptidoglycan chains. That's what we have seen here, especially the periplasmic space here. Periplasmic space, it's here. Then it is containing the Brown's lipoprotein and also the peptidoglycan moieties. So the enzymes are involved in mainly in the active transport of the nutrients and metabolites, and are also responsible of conferring resistance to some of the antibiotics. So the varieties of enzymes are present, and they make the especially the penicillins, they will be destroyed by the beta lactamase enzyme. So they secrete varieties of the enzyme. So the beta lactamase is secreted and causes the resistance, especially the bacterial resistance. So the peptidoglycan is buried underneath the outer membrane and provides rigidity to the bacterial cell wall. Whereas the cytoplasmic membranes of the bacterial cells consists of two phospholipid layers containing various proteins and the enzymes, and are structurally similar to the plasma membrane of the eukaryotic cells. So this is the cytoplasmic membrane, especially the cytoplasmic membrane. We'll see this thing, the external cytoplasmic membrane. So the outer membrane, especially this is called as the cytoplasmic membrane, which contains the porins and also the varieties of the transport proteins and the lipopolysaccharide chain. So the consists of two phospholipid layers. So it is containing two phospholipid layers containing various proteins and enzymes, and are structurally similar to the plasma membranes of the eukaryotic cells. The inner and outer faces of the cytoplasmic membranes are the eukaryotic cells, so they are structurally similar. So inner and outer faces of the cytoplasmic membranes are the hydrophilic, while the interior is having the lipophilic structure, and it has a barrier to the most of the hydrophilic molecules. Means the lipid soluble materials will not penetrate the outer cytoplasmic membrane. The function of the membrane is to act as selective permeability barrier by allowing only certain molecules enter the cytoplasm. So the active transport of the nutrients into the cell and the elimination of waste metabolites requires the energy, and this serves the cytoplasmic membrane serves for that. And also the cytoplasmic membrane has some functions of the eukaryotic mitochondria because it has necessary enzymes for the oxidative phosphorylation and electron transport in the aerobic bacteria. So even though these do not contain the well-developed ribosome, this is a well-developed mitochondria, but these cytoplasmic membranes will perform the activity of the cytoplasmic membrane, the ribosome. The cytoplasmic membrane is also site at which the enzymes synthesize cell wall polymers and capsules and secrete the extracellular enzymes of importance, especially, and this determines the pathogenicity of certain bacteria. So the cytoplasmic membrane is a very important structure, and we need to address this particular thing when we are selecting an antimicrobial agent. The cytoplasm is main body of bacterial cell that contains most of the proteins and enzymes. And these beside the structures like these also, cytoplasm is having the mesosome, then genetic material and ribosome. So the number one, the mesosomes are mostly found in the gram-positive bacteria, and they are the complex invaginations of the cytoplasmic membrane. So the mesosomes have a role in cell division in association with the chromosomes, whereas the genetic material of the cytoplasm contains the bacterial cells have two types of the genetic material. One is the chromosome and another one is the plasmid. So we have learned about this plasmid in bacterial antimicrobial resistance, and these both consist of the double-stranded DNA. And the chromosome is one of the important principal and essential genetic material. The bacterial cell contains a single chromosome of double helical DNA, which is extensively folded. Yes, it is because of its length. So in the center of the bacteria, the chromosome is folded and manifolded, and the DNA is a carrier of the genetic information and gene code for all vital functions of the particular cells. Especially in the antimicrobial resistance, these play a very important role. And during especially the multiplication, each DNA strand is replicated to yield two daughter double helical molecules, and each daughter cell derives a copy of the original genome. That means the multiplication process, it is replicated. DNA strand is replicated, especially which is present on the chromosome to yield two daughter double helical molecules. And also the daughter molecules will replicate the original genome. Whereas the plasmids, so plasmids are the small helical, especially are small circular extrachromosomal pieces of double-stranded DNA molecule found in many, but not all bacteria. So plasmids play a very important role in transmitting the bacterial resistance from one bacteria to another bacteria through piles or pillars, bridges. And several different plasmids may present in the individual bacterial cell, and the plasmids are not essential for the survival of the bacteria. So plasmids not required, just like the appendix which is present especially in case of the human being and not serving any purpose, but they carry genetic information that confers antibiotic resistance and virulence of the bacteria. So they are very important for the transmission of the resistance, and the plasmid mediated resistance is very difficult to combat, and the plasmids may contain about 20 to 500 genes which carry resistance to a number of antibacterial agents and as well as specific exotoxin production. So bacteria are going to produce the two type of the toxin, endotoxin and exotoxin. So endotoxin is usually produced by the outer membrane, whereas the plasmids are going to produce the exotoxins. And the copies of the plasmids be transferred from one cell to the another cell during the binary fission and through the conjugation. So this is the process. Then the ribosomes, bacterial ribosomes are the electrodense particular granules of the size 15 to 25 nanometers, and they are present in the cytoplasm, the ribosome. So each bacterial cell may contain thousands of ribosomes. That's the 15,000, especially in case of the E. coli. That's equivalent to 15,000, and which play a vital role in the process of the protein synthesis. That's the bacterial protein synthesis. So the number of ribosomes is influenced by the nutritional conditions and is highest in activity of the growing cell. Whereas the ribosome consists of two subunits. So this is the ribosomes are very important because especially the drugs like the amino acid, chloramphenicol, tetracycline, they all inhibit the bacterial growth by binding to the ribosomes. So we need to learn this in detail. A larger and smaller subunit they have got, which contain about 60% of RNA and 40% of the protein. And similar to the other macromolecules and small particles, the bacterial ribosomes are characterized by their sedimentation coefficient. It is expressed as the Swedberg units. So the small particles which are characterized by sedimentation coefficient, especially when you centrifuge these materials, at what concentration they are going to be sedimented is expressed as the Swedberg unit. Swedberg unit, please remember, the bacterial, what you call as the sedimentation coefficient is expressed in the Swedberg unit. So once again, already yesterday we have discussed especially this thing, just to remember how the steps in the biosynthesis of the peptidoglycan chain, especially a bacterial cell wall synthesis in the gram-positive bacteria. This is cell membrane and it is the outer ring. And here the cytoplasm is containing the varieties of the substances and the basic material for the synthesis of the bacterial peptidoglycan are some lipids and also the glucosamide. So here starting from the what you call as a glucose enters the cell of a microorganism and it is converted to the UDP and N-acetyl glycosamine, and later this will combine with the UPP to form the lipid layer 2. Later this cycle continues the N-acetyl muramic acid and N-acetyl glucosamine. So these are going to be formed and later they are converted to the NAG, NAM and transpeptidation process. And here the protein binding protein, this protein binding, penicillin binding protein will come and it will form the bulk, especially this is the cell wall synthesis. So here the transpeptidation is inhibited by the beta lactams, whereas the conversion of this particular NAG, NAM and the peptide complex is inhibited by the vancomycin. Especially this is called as the transglycosylation, and this is inhibited by vancomycin, and also it is going to inhibit at two types. That's the transpeptidation also. So then, apart from this one, the conversion of the UDP, these are all the basic steps, and one alanine is inserted, that is called as the UDP, muramyl muramyl acetic acid, then the D-glucose is entering here, then also these two UDPs are going to combine, then NAM, N-acetyl muramic acid is going to form, and this chain continues here. So this is variety in the different steps, especially conversion of UDP-NAG to UDP-NAM, especially the phosphomycin is going to inhibit. Whereas in the another tracks like the joining up of the alanine to L-alanine to the D-alanine is inhibited by the cycloserine. So these two, the peptide, especially the amino acid chain and the N-acetyl muramic acid amino acids. So they are going to form the NAM, UDP, then amino acid complex. Then the lipid 2 is formed with N-acetyl muramic acid, N-acetyl glucosamine and UPP. So all these going to form the cell wall and inhibited by varieties of the protein. Hope yesterday you understood this thing, and now we'll proceed. So whereas this is the what we have learned is the process of the cell wall synthesis in case of the gram-positive bacteria, whereas the prokaryotic ribosomes especially have a sedimentation value of the 17S and 50S. The prokaryotic means the cells of the animal body, and it is the subunit. This is called as the 70S and 50S. Together it is called as the larger subunit, whereas the 30S is especially called as the eukaryotic ribosomes, have a sedimentation value of the 80S, and this is the with subunit 60S and 40S. So 60S and 40S combinedly they form the 80S, whereas the 70S with 50S subunit is called as the larger subunit, and in prokaryotics, especially in case of bacteria, The larger one is further made up of the 23S RNA. So here the prokaryotic cell do contain the 23S RNA, which is containing the 2094 nucleotides, whereas the 5S RNA, it is containing 23S RNA, then which is containing the 120 nucleotides and 34 proteins. So that is named as L1 to L34 proteins are there. And the smaller 30S subunit contains the 16S RNA, that's 1542 nucleotides, and 21 proteins starting from S1 to 21. So there is a difference between the prokaryotic ribosomes and the eukaryotic ribosomes, especially of the bacteria. So during the active bacterial growth, and rapid protein synthesis, mRNA joins individual ribosomes to long chains known as the polysomes. So the mRNA will have a very specific code, and this will bring all these subunits together and forms the polysomes, or they are also known as the polyribosomes. And during the protein synthesis, the messenger RNA binds to the groove between two subunits, that's also 50S and 30S, and specifies the sequence of amino acids in the growing polypeptide chains. And the polyribosomes, which help to read one strand of the mRNA, simultaneously helping to synthesize the same protein at different spots of the mRNA. So this process is a little bit complicated, but we need to understand for the mechanism of action of the individual antimicrobial agent to know this particular thing. The functions of ribosomal RNA, that's also called as rRNA, primarily structure, it's a preliminary structure, but it may also be catalytic for some of the translation reactions. So the cell wall, the cell division reactions it may require. The ribosomal proteins are required to make the ribosomal functional. So here you can see the larger subunits do contain 50S and 30S subunit of the ribosomes, whereas which forms the 70S ribosomes, which is further divided into the 50S and 30S, especially the bacterial ribosomes. So the arrangement of the prokaryotic cells, especially the bacterial cells, the E. coli. So 50S, and below that thing, another ribosome, that is subunit, 50S is there, whereas the 70S ribosome do contain the 50S and 30S ribosomal subunit, and the 50S is divided into 23S RNA, 5S RNA, and 34 proteins. So here you can see that it is containing 2904 nucleotides, whereas this is containing 120 nucleotides, whereas the proteins starting from L1 to L34 form the 50S ribosomal subunit, whereas the 30S ribosomal subunit consists of the 16S RNA, that is containing the 1542 nucleotides, whereas the 21 proteins, so it is containing S2 to S21. And this is the arrangement, especially in the E. coli, an important microorganism, 50S, 30S ribosomes, and these do contain the 23S, 5S, and 34 proteins, whereas the 30S contains the 16S and the 21 proteins of the bacteria is containing. Whereas this is a picture depicting the difference between the prokaryotic ribosome and eukaryotic ribosomes, because ribosomes are one of the important components of the cell that are very much required for the protein synthesis. So here, in case of the prokaryotic cells, the ribosomes do contain the 70 S units, whereas the eukaryotic it is 80 S. Whereas the 70 S is divided is into 50 S and 30 S, as we have seen in the earlier slide. That's the 50 S and the 30 S. So 50 S subunit is the 5 S RNAs are there, and the 50 S subunit, the 23S RNAs are also there, especially in case of the prokaryotic or the bacterial ribosomes, whereas the eukaryotic or animal cell ribosomes do contain the 60S subunit, which is consisting of 5S RNA. This is same both in case of same, whereas it is containing 5.8S strands and also 28S the proteins, RNA proteins are there. Whereas the 30S subunit, so the difference is the different antimicrobial drugs like the aminoglycosides, etc., they are going to bind with 30S ribosomes. So the 50S subunit and the 30S subunit. So you may be understanding now, this is a very clear, there is a difference between the eukaryotic cell and the prokaryotic cell. So many bacteria will inhibit the antimicrobial agent, inhibit 50S, 30S, especially the aminoglycosides, etc. Whereas the tetracyclines and other things, they are going to inhibit the 50S ribosomes. So why the antimicrobial agents are not effective or not causing toxicity on eukaryotic ribosomes is they have the different subunits, especially the 60S and 40S. So hope you have understood. So the 70S, 80S, 60S and 40S, 50S and 30S. That's the important difference. So this is the bacterial same prokaryotic. It is in little different manner, which is containing the protein base like 23S, whereas the another thing is 50S. The same thing is depicted here. So 23S, 5S, and the 34 proteins, RNA subunits, and the 30S like this. It is same is maintained. So this 23S plus 5S plus the proteins like L1, L2, L3. Totally, the 31 protein will be there, and they will form the 5OS and the 23S, which is going to form the 50S subunit. Whereas the 30S subunit is formed by the combination of the 60S, especially 1540 bases, then 21 proteins. So this ultimately is going to cause the 70S ribosomes. So this is the assembled unit. Whereas the eukaryotic or the mammalian cells, as we have already seen, it is containing the 80S ribosomes, which is formation of the 28. So there is a totally difference is there, except the this subunit 5S, it is same. Whereas the proteins, number of proteins are 50, then it is consisting of 5.8S and 5S, whereas the 28S and 60S, ultimately they are going to form the 80S, especially this another subunit, especially it's having 60S and 40S. So these are going to form the 80S subunit of the ribosomes. So you might have understood the difference between the eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells. So this is the process in which how the ribosomal subunit. This is a mRNA strand and ribosomal subunit. So it will take a lot of what you call as the materials from the cell organelle and the tRNA. This is a messenger RNA. This is tRNA. It's going to form the ribosome larger subunit, and these are all the amino acids. All these are the amino acids, and this is a growing peptide chain because the mRNA will code the different amino acids and form the ribosome larger subunit. So the transport RNA or tRNA is the one which actually synthesize the bacterial proteins, whereas the mRNA is the one which decides which type of amino acids are required for the bacterial cell membrane or the bacterial structure. Then the bacterial protein synthesis in bacteria, especially the and other organisms, occurs in three well-developed stages. The number one is initiation, then elongation and termination. So the initiation of the protein synthesis in bacteria starts with the formation of the initiation complex, which requires a ribosome, three initiation factors, that's the IF1, IF2 and IF3, and a strand of mRNA and a guanosine triphosphate or GTP molecule. So in the initiation process, the inactive 70S ribosome in the presence of the IF3, that's the initiation factor 3, and the IF1 first dissociates into 50S and 30S subunits, bacterial subunits. Then the 30S subunit then associates with the IF3 and binds to a specific site on the mRNA that we will see in the diagrammatic representation. So this is the process of the initiation. Here you can see that the different proteins are going to attach with IF1, then they are going to form the particular protein, especially initially the protein synthesis. So a ribosome and three initiation factors and a strand of mRNA and GTP. Here, these are all the things they are present, and the initial methionine molecules will be formed. Whereas the second step is the elongation. Elongation means, so the length of the chain, polypeptide chain, is going to be increased. That's called as the elongation. So the presence of the factors IF1, IF2 and IF3 and a GTP, a specific tRNA is called as the initiator of the tRNA, brings a modified methionine to the 35 subunit. So this is explained here. So this is the mRNA, and the varieties of the subunits with the tRNA and also the ribosomal subunits is going to form the different amino acid chain, and this is the growing chain. And initiation process, the inactive 70S ribosome in presence of IF3 and IF1 first dissociate into 50S and 30S subunit, then the 30S subunit associates with the IF3 and binds to a specific site on the mRNA. So this is the process, how it is going to begin. So here you can see that the AGU or AUG. So this is having the this is going to be combined with that of the formerly formed peptidoglycan, this protein chain, and it is going to add more and more amino acids. So this is elongation process. Whereas the peptide synthesis will form the later the chain will be elongated due to the translocation process. We will see what is that. So the 30S ribosomal subunit, three initiation factors, mRNA, GTP, and F-met RNA, means the modified methionine RNA. So the initiation complex then combines with the 50S subunit to form the activated 70S ribosome. So the 50S ribosomal subunit contains the peptidal P site and the amino acid A site. So this is followed by a process in which the GTP is hydrolyzed to GDP, and PI and initiation factors like IF1, IF2 and IF3 dissociates from the ribosome. So this is how the protein synthesis occurs. So here also you can see this chart explains us. So here initiation factor 1 and the initiation factor 2 and 3, they are going to be combined with that of the 30S subunit. Then the mRNA will make the different amino acids like the varieties of the amino acids, they are going to form the F-methionine chain and the IF2 and GTP F-met is going to form the 50S subunit of the ribosome. That's called as the initiation process of the prokaryote. So you may be understanding, because varieties of the antimicrobials are going to bind with this or 50S or 30S subunit. So if any step in this particular process is inhibited, then the bacterial protein synthesis will not occur and the bacteria will die. So that's why the bactericidal action of varieties of the bacteria are attributed to the inhibition of the different steps initiation. Then this ensure the initiating the amino acid tRNA, that is the F-met tRNA, going to the peptidyl site and positions in the initial codon of the AUG. Here, AUG initial codon will be met with that of the F-met, and this is the one, just like the tailoring one. So, the synthesis of all proteins in prokaryotics began with the amino acid methionine, coded by the initiation of AUG. So, here the methionine is the first amino acid, and then it is coded by the different amino acids. So the translocation of the codons of mRNA take place in the 5 and 3 direction, like that 5 and this is 5 end, whereas this end is 3 end. So this is going to be take place. Whereas the elongation process takes place when initiation amino acid, the tRNA or the F-met RNA binds to the peptidyl site A, which is free, and 3 major steps occur in the elongation process. Number 1, binding of incoming the amino acid tRNA. That's in the first step of the elongation. A new amino acid tRNA that is complementary to the codon, adjacent to the initiator codon, that is the AUG. The initiation codon is AUG, binds to the amino acid site, that's the A site, and complete 70S ribosomal complex. And this step is carried out with the help of some elongation factors and the hydrolysis of GTP to the GDP and PI. The binding up of the amino acid tRNA to the A site can be blocked by certain antibiotics like the tetracyclines, especially they are going to inhibit the ribosomal synthesis, inhibiting the elongation process. Whereas the another second step is the peptide bond formation. So in this step, the activated amino acid, that is the F-met attached to the tRNA in P site, is transferred to the amino acid group of the amino acid tRNA in the A site by the enzyme peptidyl transferase enzyme. And the transpeptidation reaction results in 2 amino acid being attached to the tRNA. That's also called as the dipeptidyl tRNA in the A site with discharged or empty tRNA, especially in the P site. So there are 2 sites, P sites and PI sites. So the tRNA containing the peptides now become peptidyl tRNA, and no energy or ATP or GTP is utilized for the formation of the new bond. So the antibiotics like the chloramphenicol are going to inhibit the transpeptidation reaction and arrest the growth of the bacteria. Then the third step is the translocation. So in this step, the ribosomal complex is moves to the next codon. That's 3 nucleotides. That is in the 5 to 3 direction. 5 is the first direction and 3 direction. So here you can see this is the 5 direction and this is the T direction, and here F-met and the GTP and IF2 are going to process the 50S subunits. So A site is again empty and ready to receive a new amino acid tRNA to start the new elongation process, and the elongation process continues to the same fraction until a termination codon is encountered. So that then it will stop. Here you can see that the process of synthesis of the amino acid, especially this is 70S ribosomes of the prokaryotic cells, which is consisting of the subunits like units like 50S and the 30S. This is the 50S and this is the 30S. So here mRNA, this is 5 end, this is 3 end. So it is going to join different amino acids to form the polypeptide chain, elongated chain. Whereas the tRNA is the one which carries the subunits and binds with that of the 50S subunit unit. And ultimately, the P site or the mtRNA forms the growing polypeptide chain. This is the polypeptide chain, growing polypeptide chain, and the drugs like the chloramphenicol, lincosamides inhibit the transpeptidation process. So this is the A site, whereas this is the P site. P site. So here they are going to act. Whereas the erythromycin is going to block the 50S subunit. Erythromycin is going to block the 50S subunit, whereas the tetracycline are going to bind with the 30S subunits. So they see that the tetracyclines are going to bind with that of the 30S subunits and block binding of the tRNA. So tRNA should come and bind with that of the mRNA complex and form the polypeptides. So this step is inhibited by the tetracyclines. Whereas the aminoglycosides are also going to bind with that of the 30S subunits, but the mechanism is little bit different. They are going to inhibit the proofreading and initiation, because the proofreading, or it's the simplest terminology, because whenever the chain is formed, whether it's correct or not, it need to be read by the tRNA, and this will be inhibited by the aminoglycosides. So we understand this particular process. I think the mRNA will decide what are all the amino acids required for the forming a polypeptide, and it will bring and join together. And later the tRNA will be there, and it will take such amino acids, then it will form the peptide chain, and the different antimicrobial drugs are going to bind with different sites like A site and P site. This is the A site this side, and this is the A site, or this is the P site. So the translocation process requires the utilization of energy in the form of the hydrolysis of GDP to GDP, and the translocation step is blocked by the macrolide antibiotics. The translocation step, especially the formation of the polypeptide chain, is inhibited by the erythromycin. Here, translocation site is inhibited by the 50S subunit is formed by the macrolide antibiotics. So this is the step: initiation, then the elongation, etc., synthesis of the different proteins, bacterial proteins. So you can see the 50S or 30S, it is going to form the bacterial cell. Then the IF1 and IF2, this is the A site and this is P site. Just you can see here the A site and P site just opposite to here. It is same. So then with that of the, this is A1 initiation 1. That is IF1 and IF3, and these are going to bind the A2 factor, and this will be combined with that of the FMET RNA. Then the IF1, IF2, and IF3 with FMET RNA, they are going to form the initiation process, especially. So there is a initiation codon is there. That is FMET RNA, and this is FMET. Later with the utilization of GDP plus EPI, then empty lengthened tRNA is observed, and then the process, the elongation process, this is initiation process, the elongation process. So the elongation process, once again, this is the first step. The same steps are repeated here several times. That process called as the elongation process, which by binding up of incoming amino acyl molecule, then new amino acyl plus tRNA will be joined, and transpeptidation occurs, and FT of tRNA occurs, and dipeptidal tRNA. Both of these in the different A and P sites are going to have the translocation, and the macrolides are the one which are going to bind this site. And the transpeptidation process is inhibited by chloramphenicol. Tetracyclines are going to inhibit the binding up of the 30S subunit, and also this is inhibited. So this is the same. So here initiation, whereas the three-factor initiation factors are going to bind with that of the initiation proteins, and GTP hydrolysis occurs. Then the initial binding of the codon to this particular protein occurs. Then the same step will repeat. That's the elongation cycle. Then the protein is expressed in the form of the peptides chain. Then ultimately there is a termination stage. That is the RF1, RF2, RF3. So these 50S and 30S subunits are deteriorated, and the materials which are out of this recycling will cause and they will release certain materials which will be utilized for the next process. That's the initiation of and elongation, etc. And initiation of the protein synthesis, that's A1, inactive 70S ribosomes are with 50S and 30S subunits. The 50S ribosomal subunit contains the peptidyl and the amino acid. P means peptidyl and the amino acid A site. So A2, the dissociated 30S ribosomal subunit forms the complex with the initiation of IF1 and IF3. The A3 is initiation complex with 30S ribosomal subunit, initiation factors, that's IF1, IF2, and IF3, then mRNA and FMET RNA. FMET RNA means F methionine transfer RNA. So these are going to the anticodon of FMET FRNA bind with to the initiation codon of the mRNA. Whereas the A4, the functional 70S ribosome with mRNA and FMET RNA. So the FMET RNA occupies the P site and binds to the initiation of codon the M site. So all these are explained either this slide or the next slide. So this is the process, especially the same. So here tRNA will be there, and this is the 5 end, then this is the 3 end, and the AUG start codon, especially this is the ribosomal 50S subunit. So initially no subunits are formed. One is larger subunit and the smaller subunits, they are going to form. So here AUG means here the amino acid sequence is different. So when this comes, the protein synthesis stops. So this is called as the initiation step. Here you can see the transnational complex forms, and tRNA brings first amino acid in the polypeptide chain to bind to start a codon mRNA. So this is mRNA will be there, and the UAUG and UAC. UAG is stop codon, and this is converted to the another amino acid that's called as the elongation. So the tRNA brings amino acids one by one to add to the particular polypeptide chain, whereas the next process is the termination process, which release the factors recognize stop codon. Then the bacterial growth stops there and transactional complex disassociates, and the completed polypeptide is released. That's called as the bacterial protein synthesis. So Here, all these release factors and other things, they are going to terminate the bacterial cell process, and all the different components which are required for the bacterial protein synthesis are released and they are recycled here, like this smaller ribosomal subunit, like just like the spare parts of a bike, which are used for formation of the another bike after dismantling. So same process occurs here. So this is the same thing which is explained the earlier thing. That's the 50s and 30s subunits are there. Then the A1 and IF1 are they are there. Whereas the entire process, just go through this thing, FMET RNA, then initiation codon, then it's going to form the first unit, the 5 and 3 subunit chain. Then the second step is the elongation, in which the more and more amino acids are bounded with that of the A site and P site. So the binding of these varieties of the subunits will be formed by the different antimicrobial agents. So new acetyl tRNA will be joined to the A site, then P site, A site and P site. So ultimately, the final bacteria is formed and the different steps are inhibited by the different microorganisms. These antibacterial drugs, like the binding of incoming amino acid tRNA, will be brought by the tetracycline. The transpeptidation reaction is stopped by the chloramphenicol. The macrolides are going to stop the final step. That's the translocation step. Then elongation of the protein chain. Here the B1 functional 71 subunit with the binding one, whereas the incoming tRNA complementary to the codon adjacent to the initiation codon is the ready to occupy the A site. Here this is the final. Here B4 is there. B2 incoming tRNA is added to B2, B1, B2, B3 and B4. 4 steps are here. So each step is explained in the same thing. This is expanded in the next slide. Especially the B2 incoming amino acids is added to the empty A cycle of the complex, and this step is blocked by certain antibiotics like tetracycline. So B3, the FMET is transferred to new amino acid tRNA in the site, which help of the enzyme peptidyl transferase to form the dipeptidyl tRNA, and the empty discharge tRNA consists the bound P site, and antibiotics like the chloramphenicol are going to bind with the transpeptidase process and stop the bacterial growth. Whereas the B4 step, the ribosomal complex move to the next codon on mRNA and simultaneously shifts the dipeptide tRNA from A sites to P sites. So it is going to change. The empty tRNA leaves the ribosome, then the A site is again empty and ready to receive a new amino acyl tRNA to start a new elongation process. So this process continues, especially the translocation step is blocked by the macrolides as shown in the figure. And last step is the termination. The termination of the polypeptide chain is signaled by one of the 3 special termination codons of the mRNA. The termination codon is identified and elongation is terminated by the release of the factors like RF1, RF2 and RF3. Here you can see that particular steps. So here you can see that releasing factor 1 and 2 and 3 are there, and they are going to change from A site to P site, and finally it is going to be a matured bacterial cell. And the binding release factors are the factors induced transpeptidase transferase to release nascent polypeptide from the tRNA in the P site by the hydrolysis. So the tRNA is released from the P site. The ribosomal subunits then separate GTP hydrolysis in the dependent manner. So the 30S ribosomal subunit may either along the mRNA to start the fresh synthesis of protein, or completely dissociated from mRNA. That is the end stage. So this is the same thing. This is the biosynthesis of peptidoglycan, the bacterial cell wall. And the appendages are there, varieties of the appendages. Number one is the flagella are elongated, thin, hollow motor structures which help in the motility of the bacteria, and they consist filament, hook, and the basal body. Whereas the basal body is anchored to cell wall and the cytoplasmic membrane and attached to the filament through the hook, and the flagella are usually several times longer than that of the bacterial cell and are composed of the protein called as the flagellin. Flagellin is the one which is required for the preparation of the flagella. And flagellin, depending on their amino acid composition, elicits the production of antibodies to the specific different bacteria. So the flagella is responsible for production of antibodies. The flagella are present only in bacteria which are having the motility. So many species of the gram-negative bacteria possess flagella, whereas the gram-positive bacteria do not have the flagella in many species. So this is once again this is the fimbriae, then this is the pili, means elongated structure of the cell membrane. So inside cytoplasm is there, the ribosomes, then the nucleic acid or the DNA. This is the coiling up of the chromosomes. And the plasma membrane, of course, the third membrane and cell wall and capsules are there. So these are all the cell surface appendages of a bacterial cell. And the pili or fimbriae are fine, straight, hair-like appendages present in many bacteria, and they are composed of the protein pyelin and are attached to the cell wall. And they form a number of different functions like the adhesion of the bacteria on mammalian cells and transfer of DNA, that's the antimicrobial resistant genes from donor to the recipient cells. So here one thing need to be very important is the pili are the most common on the gram-negative bacteria, whereas the gram-positive bacteria do lack this particular thing, and they are responsible for the antibiotic resistant genes. And the bacterial growth, the bacterial cell reproduced by the binary fission into the daughter cells after attaining the full growth. The time required for the cell to divide, that it's called as the generation time, difference with the nutritional status of the bacteria and the type of the bacteria and the species concerned. So under a suitable conditions like most of the have the generation time of 20 to 30 minutes. So in case of E. coli, it is having a very fast generation time, 20 to 30 minutes. Then bacteria like the Mycobacterium tuberculosis, they divide only after 15 hours in culture and even slowly in the body. So they are the slow developer, whereas the E. coli, etc. are very fast developers. The bacterial growth in the culturing medium is not uniform, but it occurs in phases which vary depending upon the type of the organism and the environmental conditions. So in general, the growth of the bacteria in medium as estimated by the turbidity produced by the liquid medium and the extrapolated to viable units, especially by colony counting technique. So this may be divided into 4 phases. That's one. The first phase is the lag phase, then the logarithmic phase or log phase, then stationary phase, and last is the death phase. So the first phase is the lag phase, and it is the initial phase when bacteria adjust to the new environmental conditions after the inoculation of the liquid medium. Especially this is, we are talking about the in vitro development of the bacteria. So in this phase, bacteria accumulate cell constituents, synthesize essential constituents like the RNA, the enzymes, and other molecules which are maturing but not yet able to divide. So in the lag phase, just combination of the RNA and other things, it's going to happen, but the cell division will not happen here. Whereas you can see here, as the time advances, all this process, number of the cells, bacterial cells, they initially in the lag phase, only this is the preparation phase, and in the log phase, it is the exponential phase in which the bacteria will grow to the highest extent, and to some this thing time there will be no development, etc. Then this is called as the stationary phase, and later the quantity of the bacterial number or the number is going to decline by death of the bacteria, and that is called as the decline phase. So lag phase, log phase, stationary phase, and death phase. So these are the four phases. And the logarithmic or the exponential phase is the phase of the maximal growth in bacterial numbers and double each generation time. That is the number of, so here the very fast development of the bacteria will be present. A number of new bacteria appearing per unit time is proportional to the present population. So the growth is not limited, doubling continuous as a constant rate, so that both number of the cells and the ratio of population increase doubles with each consecutive time period. So the number of the bacteria will be increasing the first hour, second hour, third hour. The exponential growth will be there. For this type of the exponential growth, plotting the natural logarithm of cell number against the time process almost a straight line. That's the, here you can see this is a almost, it is a straight line. So exponentially it is going to increase. Then the stationary phase is the one, the third phase. So the especially the log phase, the lag phase and the log phase are the one which is inhibited by the macrolide antibiotics and the especially the bacteriostatic drugs. The stationary phase is the third phase during which there is no increase in the total number of the bacteria, since the number of new bacteria produced equals the number of the deaths. So this is a constant phase, and this phase is reached as the bacteria begin to exhaust the resources which are available to them, especially the culture media. Also, there is a depletion of nutrients in growth medium and accumulation of the bacterial toxins. So the bacterial toxins itself will kill all the bacteria, and the next state especially will start here the lag phase, then the log phase. As the time increases, this is the bacterial growth phase. So this is the lag phase, and this is the log phase. Of course, almost it is a straight line. So the increasing phase, whereas this phase is the stationary phase and this is the death phase. So here the lag phase, it is having a short initiation, then log phase, especially the cell will grow. And this is the food which is available to the bacteria, especially in a culture media. So the food resource go on decreasing, and as the food available go on decreasing, then endogenous respiration phase, especially this is going to decline, and ultimately the bacteria are going to die as the bacteria is going to secrete the endotoxins. And the last one is the death phase. So it is the last phase during most of the cell dies, and this phase only occurs due to the depletion of the nutrients. So that is the, especially in case of culture and sensitivity media. So this is very important. Why we are learning is, while conducting the culture and sensitivity test, if it is administered at the end of the stage and there is no use at all, it may be in vivo or in vitro also. Especially this is very important in case of the mastitis. So initially there will be a log phase and lag phase. So in case of log phase, the temperature and fever, etc. will be there. And during this time, if you administer a proper antibiotic, then it will lag. Whereas once the bacteria die and release endotoxin, so it is not at all useful. So this you should remember very, very well. So the death phase of the bacteria, if you use the antimicrobial drug, there is no use at all. So that's about this particular chapter is concerned. So tomorrow onwards, we are going to start the beta-lactamase antibiotics. So thank you. Yes, I'll take the attendance, please. Okay, now you can log out.